YouTube and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're just going to be making a Mexican lasagna or an enchilada casserole. Truthfully, I've been making this for quite a few years. Enchiladas are probably one of my favorite Mexican dishes. I know they're pretty simple, but man, just a cheese enchilada to me, that is dinner. I love it. But this kind of makes the whole enchilada prep work a little easier, and it's kind of quicker to make for a crowd of people. And so I've had this for supper for a few times now with a house full, and it usually goes over pretty well. We start out with a pound of ground hamburger. Now this is pretty lean, and we're gonna start out just on like a medium-high heat and kind of break it up just how you would prepare regular, taco meat, hamburger, stuff like that. But I've got my skillet on. I'm also gonna add half of a medium-sized onion. It's fine to cook them just together. In fact, the onions flavor the beef flavors the onion. It's good to go. Not to mention, cleanup time, prep work, who's got time? But I'm gonna let this go ahead and cook, brown up, and I will speed up the process for us to get this going and be right back. Alright, my hamburger is just about browned. I'm going to be adding it is not just about, it is brown. I'm just going to be adding a packet of the taco seasonings and kind of flavoring that just like the package indicates on the back. Using a little bit of water. Kind of get all that good seasoning mixed around. And I usually like to let it cook off for just a minute or two. Kind of get that water to kind of burn off a little bit. Get all those seasonings mixed around. And then you've got some good taco meat. Be good for tacos, but we're going to use it for our enchilada lasagna. My goodness, I don't know what I'm going to call this thing. Alright, I'm gonna let this cook down just a bit. Make sure all that beef is nice and flavored, and I will get my pan ready and show you the next step. Alright, I'm back. My hamburger has finished browning. I've, in the meantime, gotten a casserole dish, and speaking of which, isn't she pretty? My husband actually, he didn't get it for me, he made me buy it. We were at the grocery store, Walmart really, it's a Pioneer Woman dish, I think. Yes, Pioneer Woman. And I saw it and it was on rollback, and I was like, oh, that's so pretty, and it'd be so pretty on my videos. And he said, well, get it. And I said, no, we're trying to save money. And this was actually, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And he says, it's not like you don't need them, and it is for your channel. So he twisted my arm. I'll put it in the cart. It actually came with a smaller one as well, so it was justified. All right, I've got my casserole dish, and I've also got a, let's see, this is the larger, it's the 28-ounce can of the enchilada sauce in the can. If you know how to make your own, go for it. I bet that's going to be delicious. But I'm just going to spread some right in the bottom of my pan, kind of let it drizzle about so it kind of coats the bottom there. If I need a little more, I'll grab it, but I bet this will probably do me. Alright, and this is kind of our sauce here. And I've got a stack of the corn tortillas. Now, I prefer the corn tortillas. If you prefer the flour, that's personal preference here. But I actually like the flavor of a corn tortilla over that of a flour tortilla. But like I said, personal preference. If you want to go ahead and use the flour, knock yourself out. I'm just gonna kind of layer this like you would your lasagna noodles. And if they overlap, it's no big deal. I just want to kind of get it covered. All right, at this point, I've got a can of the refried beans, and I'm just gonna kind of smush them out here as best I can. I'm not really looking for accuracy here. I'm just trying to get some beans out of the can. Okay, there we go. About half the can here, because we're gonna layer it like you would a lasagna. This is probably one of my favorite meals to make during the week. I don't know, I just love it. I'm not gonna worry about spreading that out, because if you've ever tried to spread cold beans on even colder tortillas, it doesn't really work all that well. But what I am gonna do is I have a can of corn here, and this is a 15.25 ounce can of corn. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle some corn here, let it get kind of hang out. And I've also got a bag of the Fiesta blend cheese. Now you can certainly use the cheese of your choice. This particular bag is a 1 pound bag. I don't think I'll use all of it, but that's personal preference too. If you like more cheese, add more cheese. All right, now I'm just going to kind of run the sauce down the middle. Like I said, accuracy isn't really, we're just trying to get it on there. Now, instead of trying to spread all that out, I've got my next layer of tortillas, and I'm just gonna smush that down using the tortilla. My hand doesn't even get messy. No refried beans were injured in the filming of this video. Just smush it out. There. And then you can kind of pack it down in there. And now I want a layer of my meat. So I've got my hamburger over here. And I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle out half of my meat mixture. I want the other half to go on top. And this is a little bit easier to spread out. All right, now I've got my corn again. And I've just drained the can of corn so that way it's not super difficult to get out of there. Another layer of cheese. My mom loves this one. And then a little bit more sauce. All right. And then another layer of our tortillas. You can, like I said, you can kind of keep smushing it down. It's kind of the nice thing about using these tortillas instead of an uncooked noodle. You can't really smush an uncooked noodle. It'll just crack and get kind of messy. One more. All right, now I'm gonna do the last half of my can of beans. You know, and if you wanted to use, you know, instead of refried beans, you know, maybe like a can of black beans, that would work here too. I've actually put a layer of like Mexican rice in here. That works just fine. I just don't happen to have any on hand. When you're making your dinner and you're trying to find ways to stretch those dollars, you try to get creative, and rice would definitely be another way to stretch the dollar. If you didn't want to add maybe so much meat, definitely add some rice or more beans, or make it vegetarian and leave the beans out, or the meat out altogether. Actually, I have made this for my sister, who is a vegetarian. When she had her daughter, I went up to go kind of help her out for a week or two. And while I was there, I tried to fill her freezer. And so I made one of these, but I also made it, you know, vegetarian for her. And I stuck it in the freezer, and that way she could use that for dinner one night instead of ordering a pizza or having to cook. You know, after you've had a baby, you're kind of out of commission there for a minute, especially her. She had a C-section, so she really did have to take it easy. Speaking of which, this does freeze beautifully. The only thing I would do if I were gonna put this in the freezer, because like I said, I've frozen it before and it turns out just fine. But I add an extra jar of sauce. Now, not a large jar, like this one is like a giant jar. They also sell them, I think, in a 10-ounce jar. To grab one of those and kind of just double up on the sauce a little bit, not double, but one more can of that sauce all over, and that way it doesn't dry out so much in the cooking and reheating process. All right, that is the last layer. Now I'm just gonna add, there it is, add the last of my meat. Kind of let it get all hanging out on top here. I don't know, should I add another layer of, I always get to this point, I never know. It's like I said, this recipe just kind of came out of my head. One of those nights where you're kind of scrounging around the pantry, seeing what you got, what you don't got, trying to make a meal out of it. Alright. Let's see how many. Yeah, I don't have quite enough. 1, 2, 4. I got into these and made myself a little enchilada for lunch. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it. Sounds good. I'm gonna put the last of my sauce all over. Try to get it as even as I can, but it'll all bake together and be fine. I'm never worried about it. I've made this 100 times and it always turns out just fine. I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit of cheese on top. You know what? I actually ended up using a whole pound of cheese. Alright, I'm going to cover this with foil, and I'm going to put it in a preheated 350 degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. Now, the last about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to take that foil off, and I'll add a little bit of extra cheese to it just to kind of make it oh so pretty. But I will bring you back when it's time to get them out of the oven. Alright, I am back. My casserole or lasagna or whatever you want to call it, I still haven't decided yet, has been in the oven for a total of 45 minutes. Now I did take it out about 10 minutes before it was done and just sprinkled more cheese on and took the foil off and put it back in for the remaining 10 minutes. I was rewatching the footage and I think I said 350, a preheated oven at 350. I meant 375. I apologize. I'll try to correct that in the description box below. That's what happens when you don't really have a recipe for things. I'm just kind of going from memory. But that is at 375 for 40 to 45 minutes with the last 10 minutes or so to take the foil off and add the extra cheese. I did turn the broiler on for the last couple of, about a minute and a half, and noticed it was getting nice and brown, so I just thought, add some color, add some texture. But that's it. That is my Mexican lasagna or my enchilada casserole. Maybe I'll call it an enchilada lasagna. There we go. Perfect. If you guys liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you like what I do here, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.